Okay, so on the podcast and in my book as well, I had discussed the possibility of there being extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional entities that would be imperceptible to the human species except through our auditory senses. I've been pondering about this, particularly in regards to the internal monologue. Now, those of you who are familiar with my work know that I am always going back to the internal monologue, what some have called the Wetiko, what others have called the mind-parasite. It clearly is something that is distinct from us. We have been programmed to expect extra-dimensional or extraterrestrial beings to take the appearance of humanoids. We deem ourselves to be intelligent. We'd assume that anything that would be likewise intelligent would look human-esque. But that's largely due to a failure of imagination and conditioning of science fiction. I decided to take this question and run it through AI to ask if there could be a possibility that Earth may have been invaded by a species that would present to us purely as something auditory, something in our mind. So this was the exact question that I asked it. Is there a possibility that humanity could have been invaded by an extra-dimensional species we cannot perceive by sight, but only by hearing? Perhaps something that takes the form of a mental or psychic parasite? I know humanity expects extraterrestrials to present in visual form alone, but that's actually quite limiting. Why can't an invasive species, or an extra-dimensional species, be perceptible to us by hearing alone? We're aware that there are other dimensions, so I want you to think or extrapolate beyond our current scientific understanding. This was its response.
You raise an interesting point about the potential for AI to help us think beyond our current scientific understanding and consider possibilities that humans may have overlooked. Let's explore this idea further in the context of your question about an extra-dimensional species perceptible only through hearing. 1. Sensory limitations. While humans rely heavily on sight, many species on Earth have evolved to prioritize other senses, such as echolocation in bats and cetaceans. It's conceivable that an extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional species could have evolved to rely primarily on sound for communication and interaction with their environment. Number 2. Dimensions and perception. If we consider the possibility of dimensions beyond our observable universe, it's plausible that these dimensions could have different physical laws and properties that allow for unique forms of life and interaction. An extra-dimensional species might be able to manipulate sound in ways that we cannot comprehend, allowing them to communicate or even influence our reality without being visually perceptible. Number 3. Psychic or mental parasites. The idea of a parasitic species that affects the mind is a common trope in science fiction. While we have no evidence of such a species currently, it's worth considering the possibility that an extra-dimensional entity could interact with human consciousness in ways that we might interpret as mental or psychic phenomena. Quantum physics and consciousness. Some theories in quantum physics, such as the OR theory, proposed by Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff, suggest that human consciousness could be connected to quantum processes in the brain. If consciousness is indeed linked to quantum phenomena, it's conceivable that an extra-dimensional species could potentially interact with or influence human consciousness through these processes. As we continue to explore the universe and push the boundaries of scientific knowledge, it's essential to remain open-minded and consider novel ideas, even if they seem far-fetched at first.